How are you
All
doing?
right. Doing good, man. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. It's been, I feel like I don't even know how long. Before we get into it too, I'm just curious, is there anything that I should know or you want to talk about during specifically that's good for you right now? Sweet. I mean,
Um,
well, there
yeah,
is, but yeah, I just prefer free flowing conversation.
that's cool. Yeah, I mean, so I'll give you kind of update as to what we're focused on now. So we've got a software app that we launched. It's called Inspired. I don't know if you had a chance. I think you messed around with it. So
My
that's
VP of marketing, yeah, asked me if he could buy it. So he was on the 30-day trial. If you see us in there, we've rebuilt. If not, we'd love to give you some money though for it.
so that's the big focus of what we're doing right now. And my focus for my target audience obviously is Inspired, but I'm working with like marketing practitioners now. So showing them how to learn all the copywriting skills, learn all the marketing, funnel building skills. So just trying to take that step next level up and working with the
Cool.
marketers. And, so we teach, I mean, you run a publishing company, right? So we teach a partnership model where they can learn how to get paid on performance, the whole nine yards. So that's kind of our
Sweet.
big focus right now
Ooh.
of what we're doing. Yeah.
That's where both of those areas are like my two huge like curiosity points because internal making the internal team and like invincible is always my goal. That's more so than any
Yeah.
external vision I have is that. Um, I just had the realization too, because when I vision pitched to our team, I'd be like, we're trying to build the next Agora, and half the time that's just easy to remember. And I'm like, well, why does that matter to me? And I was like, it doesn't matter to me the number of like top line revenue at all. So like why? Because people are like, how many brands are we launching? Blah, blah, blah. And to me, I was like, oh, it's actually about when I went there the first time, just loved how they operated and the team, and that there were so many A players in one room kind of sparring. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe maybe we could discuss that in addition to a bunch of other stuff. If you have, how many offers do you have right now as it stands?
Yeah, so I'm partnered with probably 12 to 13. Now, I run it a little bit differently than I think what you do. So,
Probably.
we
I'm
run, yeah,
yeah.
so I keep it lean and mean. So, a lot of that is on consulting. We also have some like full-blown management. And so really what I teach people is like we call it the digital product partner. We help them launch low ticket, highly scalable offers. Like we're not trying to get them to scale to the moon, right? It's more
Uh-huh.
so like, okay, cool, so we teach them to partner with clients, partner with experts, and maintain ownership equity. So they're building a list. They share the list, like they share all of the assets. So they can
Mm,
remarket to them. They can email them. So I teach them like it's really important to build a list, obviously, and it's like you can build your
yeah.
own list if you don't. But a lot of these people don't want to fulfill on the products. So
Oh,
I
this
show
is
them how
great.
to do that, where you co-own the list. You may like you're the driver. You're
All right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you get all this stuff. So
I
um,
wish I would have learned that lesson too, dude. I actually wish I ran it like you do. Maybe with some like some exceptions, but I think your model would make me happier personally. We definitely got into a temptation of like building big, and now it can be hard to cut and lean down.
yeah.
Really hard. So the chaos and entropy of the whole org makes it more difficult every day that you continue to expand.
Dude, I was always so impressed by the operation that you ran because that's not easy. That is like that takes a special person with very special skill sets and a very, very big vision. Full transparency, I tried to do that on my own and I hated it. Like just like we called it our umbrella brand was called Experts Unleashed. Maybe we can chat about this. Like
Yeah,
this might
we
be
can actually just use this. Honestly, my
cool.
growth is mainly growth operators type, so this is great.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. And you guys will get to see that we were meaning to like sometimes people do this, but then they forget to cut or whatever. So
yeah,
I always love to see as much transparency into an org as I can, just so I know what people are actually thinking. This
sure.
is easy for people in our industry to peacock, and like I think that's why I liked you right away. Is you didn't have that tendency. I could tell that you actually cared to have confidence in an area, and Flatline like spoke highly of you too. So like it was so three things in one for me that I would have hired you off just any of those singles.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh. So, dude, I don't know how it all ended up actually, and I don't know if there's anyone from that era of the team from a few years ago, but it was Royalty Hero, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. Tough offer, KDP, like you knew that niche like the back of your hand.
Yep.
So it's tough. It's a tough game to be in, and maybe I'll start off with this is Where did you actually start? Did you start as a copywriter or did you kind of stumble into it from a different craft?
Yeah. My origin story, everyone's origin story is unique. I got into the entrepreneurship space not even knowing I wanted to do digital products, right? So 2013, I'm trying to remember. So I was employed as a sales engineer. So my background is in mechanical engineering. So I went to
Uh,
school for tech or went to school for engineering, Rochester Institute of Technology. Anyone who's watching right now, I'm a Rochester
New
lover. I
York.
love upstate New York.
Yeah.
And I went to school for engineering and I lasted 6 months and I'm like, this is awful. Like I got my first job as a design engineer, designing commercial heating and cooling systems. Like this is absolutely not what I want to do for the rest of my life. I was looking for other opportunities. I had an itch to like just be more personal. I was 22 at the time, maybe 21, and I didn't really know what I really wanted to do. So I just knew that I couldn't sit behind a desk all day and draw CAD and do what I was doing. I needed to be out, I needed to be talking to people. I saw that while we were working as an engineer, we would get these sales vendors come in and they'd give presentations. We call them lunch and learns. So they'd buy us lunch, they'd talk about something for an hour and like pitch their products. And while I had no authority at the time, they would talk to my senior level engineers and say, "Hey, we should work on this project together, use my products, whatever." And so there was an opportunity, a job offer came or a job posting came out. I was looking, and one of these vendors had posted like, "Hey, we're looking for a sales engineer," and I'm like, "Sure, why not?"
So
I
you
have no, yeah,
did you misunderstand the context or you just thought it was intriguing?
no, I knew the context,
Okay.
but I had no background in sales, and so I'm
Gotcha.
like, "Well, I'll apply. I think I can talk to people, like whatever." And
Engineers love it.
they weren't really looking for sales people. Like they want someone who knows the technical background, and they were going to teach them the sales
Okay.
piece.
Well, we'd call
So
maybe sales process ops or something. That's a good name for it. I might actually, that's a huge tip, actually, maybe. I'll start posting for sales engineers. Uh,
yeah. Yeah, and like they're tech like they understand the tech and they'll kind of learn sales on the back end. So I
what
interviewed,
type
got the
of
job offer.
engineering?
Yeah,
What type of engineering between like civil, mechanical, electrical,
mechanical.
whatever, mechanical for
Yeah.
you, is that you think the most, what would I say, not optimal, but the most likely to transition that skill set into something like sales engineering?
I would say that sales engineers are probably needed in every field. Everyone needs to sell, and there are people who need to be technical. And
Okay.
it's not like sales like we like if you get trained in high ticket sales, like it's totally different. Like you just need
Okay.
to sound
I was
yeah.
trying to think if like, hey guys, you're a young civil engineer out there, like the skill set might not translate, but it would for mechanical. Is kind
Hmm.
of going with that. Was it a natural transition, or you're like, no, it's just the only basically similarity was the idea of engineering.
I wouldn't say it was supernatural.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it was an easy transition, but it was something that I was young and hungry and willing to learn. The idea was the offer was 100% commission only sales, so you ate what you killed.
Mm,
I got paid a base. It was like $40,000 a year base, so I was collecting a weekly paycheck or a bi-weekly paycheck, and then I had to basically out earn my draw. So theoretically, if I didn't make $40,000 worth of commissions, I would
yeah.
technically have to pay that difference back. It never happened.
Okay.
I doubt they would ever really let that happen. That's just kind of cruel, especially with all the hours that
Yeah.
salespeople put in. But anyway, um, I was pretty close to break even the first couple of years, and I was learning a
Wow.
ton, and I was exposed to their sales process, which was super old and outdated. We're talking this is 2009 when I first started. Their whole method of landing projects was just go knock on doors. Like you have this list of potential
That's what
customers.
the engineering was. Hey, engineer your way through this door and then get a sale.
Pretty much. And so I had to go knock on all of my customers' doors and say, "Hey, what projects are you working on? Can I help?" And it was just constant resistance. Like that's not a great way to like I understand there are some niches where you need to do that, but I didn't have an endless supply of customers. It's like I had a finite list. My territory was Buffalo, New York. So I had a finite list of customers. I had to just bother the crap out of them until they just finally fed me some scraps just to keep me away. And that was my sales process for the first like 3 years. Now, how we would what they thought was the best way to generate like higher ticket sales, higher ticket products and projects we would have our manufacturers that we represented. They'd come around, they were all over the world, all over the country. Like, so we'd represent these manufacturers. And so they'd come in once or twice a year and say, hey, we want to give some product demonstrations, set up some lunch and learns with your customers so I can give some demos. So I'd call them up like, hey, I got a vendor coming in. I've got a manufacturer coming in. Can we buy you lunch and set up a presentation? And that was like pulling teeth. Like that's not an easy sell, especially because I'm like in between that, I'm still knocking on their doors every freaking day, just bothering the crap out of them. So we'd set up these presentations and they'd come in, and a lot of these guys who were giving the presentations, they're engineers and they're selling to engineers. So it's like dry meets dry.
This
And
the meta-ness of this sales engineer now engineering. It sounds like cold. Was it cold or warm traffic at this point? Kind of, did they know you?
like I had to make it warm. They didn't know me at first, so I had to introduce myself, then build the relationship, and that
Oh,
took time. Not only
yeah.
that, but the sales cycle was incredibly long. We're talking years,
Yeah.
like years for a project to come to fruition. So anyway, I'd do the dog and pony show. I'd get a manufacturer to come in, and we'd rush around, get them to the presentation. And these guys didn't want us there. My engineers rarely wanted us to be there, so they're showing face and whatnot, and trying to be respectful. And it very rarely turned into any projects, right? Because also I wasn't viewed as the expert. I was just the vendor. Like I was just that guy, that annoying
They
guy.
maybe call you a sales engineer internally. That's like it's a bait and switch now all of a
Yeah,
sudden for you. But I
yeah,
imagine that's why you're so good. I feel like that's a common pattern among top performers. And this variant of it, I've never heard of before. Like that's
yep.
a lot to throw someone
It
who's
is, especially
very
when you're 22, 23 years old. They already don't respect you because most of those people are older. It's like this young buck, he knows nothing, which truthfully I didn't. Like I
you
was
didn't
still learning it, So,
only so it had nothing to do with like putting Zaps together or Zapier or like improving the sales
oh God,
process
no.
day one.
Dude, we
That
had,
was
we had no tech. We had no tech at all.
yeah, there was close to little to close to no actual engineering in any defensible way, I would say, other than
Right. Well, the engineer would come in like designing the heating and cooling projects. Like, so if they're building a hospital, they're building an office building, like that's where the engineering comes in.
okay,
Yeah,
got it. So you studied under that type of person, or they came in and
correct. So that's where the engineering would come in, which is just designing the system because those were all mostly custom systems. And then we would sell the equipment that would fulfill on those systems.
oh man,
So
I'm gonna remember that the rest of my life. Yeah, sales
yeah,
engineer, more like engineering sales for two engineers.
yeah.
Uh, that's crazy. Okay,
So
so
yeah, so
fast
as we
forward.
keep progressing, right? So this lunch and learn methodology, after 3 years of doing this and really not seeing like a clear path to making six figures, which is what I wanted, like it was a very, very slow burn. And I was working 60, 70 hours a week. Like I was super stressed out. I was in the field of construction. Like that was our field that we were in. Construction is also a brutal industry. I wouldn't recommend anybody get into construction. I don't care how big the ticket prices are. Everyone
I,
just wants to sue you. Everyone wants to just cut your throat and sue you. So anyway, after 3 years, I realized how inefficient this system was. I said, you know what? If they really want to view me as an expert, I need to start giving these presentations on my behalf. I need to stop waiting for these manufacturers to come in, and I need to start teaching this stuff on my own. Now, mind you, this was not anything that my employer was advocating for, but this is me just trying to survive, knowing that I got to get more projects. So I started to buy these books on how to give effective sales presentations. I'm like, I think I can do an infinitely better job than most of these people that were coming in that were from our manufacturing facility. So I
do
started
you
studying.
go
Yeah.
ahead? I was gonna say, do you remember the first sales book you bought? Oh, what the title
Mm,
was?
I wish I did. It was when so I'd have to travel all over the country. And so it was a typical book that you'd buy in an airport terminal, right? So it was whoever was talking about sales presentation. I wish I could remember who it was, but I was just trying to learn the basics. Like, okay, what are the basics? And it wasn't even like, how do I get them to buy? I'm not dropping bonuses or any of that stuff, but like, how do I give an effective sales presentation?
That
So
was
I
a
don't really think there were a lot of things that I learned from the books. It was more so I watched these guys give these presentations all day. Like how the main thing for me was just I needed to raise my authority and learn how to give them on my own and answer questions. And so the first presentation that I did was for a contractor that was a huge contractor, but we weren't getting any business from them. And so I identified them as a huge opportunity. And they were also nice. They were nice to deal with. And we had this, piece of equipment that we were really trying to push hard. It was a big new opportunity. So I said, okay, you know what? Hey, I'm just going to come in and give a presentation. And we did, and it ended up like over the like that customer became our number one customer almost overnight. So the amount of respect that I got for giving that presentation, doing a decent job, being able to, talk intelligently about what the products were, just instantly elevated my authority. And I ended up landing probably north of $1 to $2 million worth of projects. And to put that into perspective, from a top line revenue standpoint, I was probably like my best year up to that point was probably like six or $700,000 in gross revenue, plus my commission share. I was probably making, I don't know, 50 grand, 60 grand in total. So we landed a couple of really big projects with them because of those presentations. And I was landing project sizes that were 100 grand, 200 grand, even more, just one off with one customer. So that just instantly gave me a huge income boost. And the amount of profit that I made on those was, so much more than what I was making at all these other scrappy projects. And not that I wasn't hosing them. It was just bigger ticket. You just make more money. Like that was it.
There was no one catalyst or turning point for that. It was like gradual iterations, basically, and then you got there as far as
Yes.
work. What made
Yes.
you want to do that? Like get better or like master that area of something that you previously had no interest in, let's say.
It was a matter of survival. The
Okay.
amount of time that I was putting in and the stress that came from it and the lack of revenue, like I just wanted to be as best as I possibly could in this field. Like I wasn't even thinking about leaving at this point. Like I just really wanted to be the best salesperson in the company. That was why I kept studying, and that was why a lot of things started to shift. So I started giving these presentations, and then I started to implement some other things. I came across another book, which I distinctly remember, which had nothing to do with sales or presentations. It was the 4 Hour Workweek, Tim Ferriss. So
That,
I was an avid reader, and
yeah.
I didn't even get the idea. Like, I didn't read that book because I wanted to go off and do my own thing. I read it because I knew that my company was so inefficient with everything. Like, I needed to find more ways of leverage. And this book just kind of spoke to me. And so the
You're
one,
smarter than me.
yeah,
That's really mature way of looking at that book, and that's the actual lesson and why it's still
it
relevant.
is. So I was blown away that like, I think it was Elance at the time. Like, I had no idea about these virtual contractors. Uh,
Mhm.
and one of the things that Tim talked about in the book, and I can't remember exactly, but I was introduced to the idea of an email list, like just an email newsletter. And I'm like, oh,
True.
right. Like my mind was blown. I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense. I'm like, instead of me knocking on doors all day, every day and calling my customers and just annoying them, what I was going to do is I was just going to write a newsletter and send it to them like once a week. Right. And it was just meant to just elevate my authority even more. And so I pitched this to my boss. I'm like, hey, I want to do this. What do you think? And he shot it down like immediately because in his mind, I'm trying to do less work. And in my mind, I know how inefficient this is. And so I ignored him and I decided to do it on my own. So I literally signed up for a free Mailchimp account. And, I only had like 150 people maybe on my list of like all my contractors, all my customers. I said, you know
Nice.
what? I'm just going to, send them a weekly newsletter. I'm going to write
I
up some
love that so much.
yeah,
Uh,
it's like I'm just going to write some case studies. I'm going to share some insights of things that I've learned. And Nick, after that first, like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 weeks of doing it, we're talking just a handful of like newsletters that I sent out. I was getting inquiries saying, hey, come in. I got this project that I'm working on. I really liked this idea that you talked about in your case study. Like, let's talk about it. I landed a $450,000 project with one engineer, one customer just because of that email newsletter. And so I got that meeting booked. We had these these huge pieces of equipment that were a very very intent focus of my customer of my company to try and promote. I said I got this custom air handler that we're going to include in here, and we're going to design all this other stuff. So I brought it back to my boss. I said, "Look, this is what this newsletter did, and this is the project that we got." So like it was 50% of my business in a year. I did it with one project in addition to all the other stuff that I was doing. So like my income was now taking huge leaps, huge leaps. So I was so excited. I ran into my boss's office and said, look, here it is, here it is. And he was like, just handed off to Casey, who was his assistant. at the time. I'm like, you are totally missing the
That would
point.
make me so mad. Yeah.
Oh, I was pissed. And that was when I knew I was going to leave.
Yeah.
And so I had read the 4 Hour Work Week, and it wasn't really about starting a business. It was just being efficient, right? And
Oh,
leveraging stuff. So that was when I got the itch. That was the moment of like, I'm going to leave corporate America. Still didn't know what I was going to do, but that was really the last domino. And when I did leave, I left over $100,000 in owed commissions to me, right? That's what we call in sales the golden handcuffs. Like your company has you locked in just until your next commission was owed. And, I just knew that my health and my sanity and my opportunity was worth way more than all of those commissions that were owed. So I left it and started my own venture. So that's the very early stages.
dude, thank you for telling me that. I just wrote a few notes to myself. Every episode I get, I like to throw a little ad spend at, since that's like one of my used to be my best skill, probably isn't now. And Tim Ferriss might send it at his way because he unlocked me too. And it's like I think people ish like around in our generation, that's this this era's like version of Dale Carnegie or Rich Dad Poor Dad and
Yeah.
Saki, like the generation before us. It's like every generation has these like certain books that a majority that I found a majority quote or cite is like the actual point or the aha moment or the conversion
Hmm.
point. If we were gonna
Yeah.
how where you get sucked over here. So, dude, but the key difference, and that's why I love talking to you, is because it makes me angry how much smarter you are at interpreting the lessons right away. Because I was at the time with just looking for, like I thought I was just like looking for a lazy way to, make money. So like high leverage, low effort.
Yeah.
It's my whole thing. And then I learned the hard way that that's never, like that's almost never the way that it works out. Like you have
Yeah.
to have a lot of luck and low probability odds to luck into it. So, and I just did verbatim though. What I'm really good at is reverse engineering exactly what worked for someone. So I started, if you remember the $100 French shirts or like whatever, not even drop ship, but Alibaba like to them. So you
Oh
have
yeah.
a story. I had those at my house. I tried like exactly what Tim tried and learned the hard Google search. I was like, cool, I can do this. Google ads, $100 t-shirts, frame them as premium, and lost money. So that
Yeah.
was my first experience.
Yep.
Yeah, if you guys are watching this, uh it's a good reminder to just look for the levers. How do you do that? Like in your head, a lot of people can't assess leverage very well.
Yeah. Well, so I guess really, where I look for levers is I try and look internally about what I've done well. So this kind of transitions into the next phase of my entrepreneurship career, how I got into digital products. So as an engineer, there is a handful of licensing exams that we can pass. Like there's the fundamentals of engineering exam, then there's the professional engineering exam. That's like the holy grail. Like everybody wants to be a licensed, certified professional engineer. You need like I don't know, probably 6, 7, 8 years of experience before you can even apply to take that professional engineering exam. But for the first test, the fundamentals of engineering exam, you can take it right out of college. So I did. So I took the FE exam, and when I took that, I signed up for some sort of study program. I think I invested like $800, and this exam is essentially like a final exam of your entire college career. So it's every piece of engineering. It's not just mechanical, like it's mechanical, electrical, chemical, civil. There's math, there's all sorts of stuff. Like it's literally a final exam for college. It's an extremely difficult test. I signed up with my buddy. We were both taking it at the same time. We took the exact same study course. And after the study course was set up on weekends. So I think it was all day for like 6 weekends, Saturday and Sunday. Like it's a crash course. And I remember going like into the second weekend, so it would have been like session number 3 or 4. I remember talking to my buddy Matt, and I'm like, Matt, this is not working for me. So I'm gonna show up, but I'm gonna do my own thing. Like if you want to do it with me, go for it. But like I have this plan that I've kind of mapped out in my head. So they tell you roughly like how many questions are going to be on each topic. So what I did was I created this study plan. I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm not going to get any electrical questions correct. I know I'm not going to get any chemical questions correct, and it's all multiple choice. So I literally created a math formula that
Game
said,
up.
yeah, yeah. And so I created this study guide of like, well, here's where I'm going to put my time and attention because these are my strongest areas. And for electrical and chemical, like I'm not even going to try and learn it because I didn't learn it in 5 years in engineering school. I'm just going to write A for all, like literally, I'm just going to, circle in A for every single one of these questions that I don't know. Or, I'm just going to choose one of the
Oh,
multiple choice
you're too
questions.
smart. That's like that's what everyone should do.
Yeah.
That's what everyone should
And
do.
so what ended up happening was, it's literally the tale of two paths. Matt continued with the study course. I continued on my own path. I passed and he didn't. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, you know what? I'm an entrepreneur. I'll write a book on this. I'll write a little study guide, and this will be like my ticket to freedom. So I actually wrote it like while I was still employed, and I launched it. It did, I'd say like moderately well. I ended up being a number one bestseller. Like I didn't take any marketing courses, by the way. Like I didn't know how to promote this. I didn't know how to launch it. I had one guy that I connected with who taught FE study material, and I reached out to him and said, "Hey, here's my plan. Like, would you be interested in promoting it?" We built up a small relationship, but like we were, jamming on, he built this business teaching people, study materials. He's, yeah, man, that's an awesome guide. Like I'll promote it. So he sent like one or two emails to his list. And that's what spiked me to number one when I launched it on Kindle. Like it wasn't even a hard copy. It was like 30 pages, sold it for $10, and it became a number one bestseller in Amazon, which doesn't mean a whole lot in like this really, really niche category. But I'm like, sweet, this is going to be amazing. And then come to realize like that market is incredibly small. Like I can't make enough money selling $10 ebooks. And
Mhm.
so I needed to start to figure out what that next
Okay.
step was.
Trial and error, you learn kind of, and the math just made sense to you from a like an engineering background. Yeah, like this
Well,
all makes
well, the
sense.
math of a $10 ebook did not make sense to me. I thought it
Yeah, you
made
just
sense. I'm
didn't
like, oh, there's thousands of people that can
deal
buy
with that
this.
all
It's
the
like,
time. Yeah,
yeah,
someone's like, why like Facebook ads are getting like too expensive. And I was like, well, okay, did you change any other variable? You're already too thin. The math equation was thin to begin with.
yeah,
Like, yeah, but now I know that in hindsight, it's hard when you're thinking about the mechanics of it. And that's coming from someone like yourself who's good at math. So I can't
yeah,
imagine that it's easy for everyone else. What other, I don't like, again, you're actually the first person who agrees with me in that area. I always talk about just like cutting your weaknesses. Like I don't hate working on your weaknesses. I get like trying to curb them so that there's no like catastrophic like risk. It's no like black swan scenarios of
hmm,
just like, yeah, like, it's not important to take care of your body and then let you balloon to like 600 pounds. I get that. So like have some self-control and work on some areas of discipline. But doubling down on my strengths, I'm just like, life's too short. I can't improve everything. So you got to let go of the idea that like you can, but you know what I mean. You
yeah,
got to focus. So it's just like, what areas do you want to improve? Um, and I never wanted to be like average across every discipline in life. So
yep,
that was my thought.
yep,
Yeah. So where I was going with that is people that resonate with that type of thing of like, oh yeah. For me, I had to hear it like from someone like yourself before it was a huge unlock. And I was like, oh, I don't have to be like David Goggins or be like Bill Gates. And a lot of times in business school, I went to business school and you're already better at it than me at the same age, probably. I was learning the lesson like, hey, case study applies to everyone. And if it doesn't work for you, it's either because of, and then you start blaming external factors, internal factors. And it's at that point in my career, I didn't know to even separate those two and try to
yeah.
isolate. So, what would you say, or like, what are some of the quick things um, that you probably breeze through that I don't like to dwell on too many, but someone who's like you, what did you screw up? What was your like biggest career mistake up to that point that you had to learn or aha?
Up to that point, so like um,
Just like getting into this industry for the first time. Like, could you have done it faster? What was the shortcut if you looked back? And yours is pretty dang good as far as like making it there quick.
yeah, I wouldn't really change anything of my origin story in terms of mistakes that I made. I would probably never advise anyone to take the path that I took because I was at a breaking point with my career where I didn't care about the money anymore. Like it's not that I had endless supplies in reserve. Like my wife was making $38,000 a year.
Okay.
Thankfully we had very, very low expenses, but I still had debt from school. So I wouldn't really advise anyone to do that. But I mean, I definitely jumped out of the plane and just had faith in myself to build the parachute on the way down.
Yep.
And so I had to take 2 weeks to decompress from all the stress that was in that sales career before I really focused on myself and did anything else. I would say really the biggest mistake that I made was probably not pivoting fast enough. So if we fast forward, the next 2 to 3 years, so where that took me was I realized I needed some higher ticket products, right? I can't just sell a book. I realized I needed to learn marketing because I didn't know anything about marketing. So Russell Brunson was launching ClickFunnels at the time, and he was bringing on his next round of like coaching students. And I'll never forget, like you want to talk about ad recall, right? You know what ad recall is, but for those of you who are listening, you don't know ad recall is this, how long you can remember, how long you remember a certain ad that came across your feed, like how much of an
Mhm.
impression does it make to you? And it's
Yep.
it's not everyone needs ad recall, but this is 11, 12 years ago now. I'll never forget coming across my Facebook feed. There's an image of Russell standing in front of a plexiglass, you know,
Uh-huh.
whiteboard, and he's
Yeah.
drawing on it. And I remember the sales page. I clicked on. I don't remember what the ad said, but I remember the image. And I clicked on the sales page, and it said, "I'm looking for my next, I'm looking for a handful of my dream, clients."
Yeah. Dream 100 hook, basically.
Yeah, I'm looking for the next, a
Yeah.
handful of my next dream clients. If that's you, I'll double your traffic and conversions over the next 12 months. And in my
Um,
mind, I'm like, sweet, I have zero. So doubling that would be infinite, right?
Russell, the math doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So went through the sales process, joined one of his coaching programs and started to learn about funnels. And I got really hooked on it. Like I love the idea of funnels and the whole 9 yards. And so that is what got me into the world of funnels.
What year
That
was that roughly?
that was end of 2013/2014, like December 2013, somewhere around there.
That era of Russell Brunson like is so like definitively like he was on top of the world, the best marketer in the world. Almost, I feel almost like him and Frank, I remember from that specific
Yeah.
era pretty like vividly crushing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the ad recall for me too, which is a hard thing to measure. Call it qualitative attribution in
Hmm.
marketing normally, is just that is like made such a lasting effect. So dude, so you got in there, doubled zero, so probably gave a testimonial. The return was infinite.
The return was infinite.
Uh-huh.
And I'll never forget it. We hopped on our intake call and he's like, your niche sucks. Like he wrote about this in Expert Secrets. So he writes
Oh,
about this
we're in expert
conversation.
secrets.
Yeah. So he wrote
Dang,
about this in his book.
that's
And,
so cool.
because I was still trying to go after engineers at the time and I'd created a engineering career development course. So that was my like niche expansion, was trying to teach people career development for engineers. And I was having a hard time, but he still tells everyone to do webinar funnels, like to this day. Like that's his thing, which is fine. So he's like, hey, you got to do a webinar. Here's my training. Go do it. So I did, and this is probably okay. You're talking about mistakes. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes that I made early on. I was running a webinar funnel, and I was doing live webinar, at night, and I was selling this course. It was probably, I don't know, $500 or something at the time. People loved it, and I'd get a couple sales here and there. I was very close to break even, but when you don't know what you don't know, I thought that was a total failure. Because you see all these people who are crushing it with webinars. They're making 4x, return on their ad spend. They're making billions of dollars. So like that's the comparison that I was making, and I did it a handful of times. I'm like, I'm losing money on ads, and it's just low show up rate, whole 9 yards, everything that you hear about with webinars, right? And so I'll never forget, Russell gave me that input on like day one of the coaching program. I ignored it to start. And then after I was struggling here and there, I was like, you know what? I just got to pivot my market. And I didn't really have anything to pivot to. Like I didn't have any other, like, what am I going to pivot to?
Hard.
Well, the one thing that I was really great at was watching other webinars and showing people how they can improve it, right? There's two completely different skill sets, is being able to do it for yourself and then being able to see and help other people do it. So I remember calling Russell because I'd run out of cash, run out of money, and I was asking to sell for him on the phone, which by the way, didn't have any experience doing that either, but I was totally hustling at this point.
That's
So
cool.
I call him up, like, hey man, sorry, like I need some help. I'm just looking for a job at this point. Can I love your coaching program. It was fantastic. I know you're still driving ads. Can I be a salesperson and just sell this stuff for you? And he
Hmm.
said no, but he goes, what you can do is there's another member of our coaching program who is looking for a salesperson. He's running webinars. He wants someone to follow up with all these leads. I'm like, sweet, make that intro. So we talk, and his name was Jason. He was running a webinar for an Amazon dropshipping offer, which was hot at the time. And he was close to break even. He was like, I just want you to call all of my leads who didn't buy and try and sell them. I'm like, sweet,
Cool.
give me the list. I'll call them. I
Yeah.
did it for like an hour, and I'm like, screw this. So I said,
So
um,
that's
So
I might do that later today, and I'm not looking forward to it too.
yeah. So I said, Jason, let me watch your webinar, which I did watch it. But I said, hey, I watched your webinar, but I think there's ways that we can improve this. Would you?
Good pivot.
So I said, would you mind if I just ran the webinar for you? Meaning I will show up live. I'll pitch the entire thing. I'll give the training. And he's like, absolutely, because I hate doing it, but I'm only doing it because Russell is telling me to do it every single week. I said, let me do it.
Yeah, no, and that's dude, that's resonates so much. But the degree of difficulty actually making that pivot, a lot of people like I only know you, Flatline, and maybe five other people in the world that can like basically deck it out and be co-host. That's such a
Yeah.
unique skill set, and people don't realize
I
like the
wasn't a co-host. It was me
yeah.
flying solo.
Oh, you
So
were solo doing it, doing
yeah,
someone else's pitch.
yes, doing someone
Okay.
else's pitch.
That
Yeah.
can make it easier, I guess, to like disconnect from the fact that you have nothing to lose, but still like the actual degree of difficulty in pulling that off is even higher if you
Yeah.
don't have a co-host. Yeah, so
So
check it
two
out.
weeks later, I took over his webinar and I made the pitch. So it was $1,000 program, typical 997 offer, right? Internet marketing speak. And he was making about one sale a week from his ads, spending, about $1,000 on ads, making about $1,000 back. So he was close to break even. That first time I ran his webinar, we pulled in 14 sales, same ad spend. We 14x'd his performance on that
Whoa,
first campaign. And
whoa.
Jason called me up afterwards. His stripe was just going off the chain, right? Like sale here, sale here, sale here. He's like, holy crap, dude. I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. And so
Yeah,
I just negotiated. I mean, I didn't negotiate at the time, but like I said, listen, just pay me a percentage of the sales. And it was like 10% of the sales. So I
10%.
made 1,500 bucks or whatever that was. Yeah, about 1,500 bucks running that. I'm like, let's just keep doing it. And so I did that for him for about 6 months. We took that to, some pretty big heights, all cold traffic. And that's when I realized that's my opportunity is to do webinars for other people. Not just like I didn't want to I can't run them, for a million people, but I can consult, I can write webinars. And so that was the birth of the webinar agency and that was the big pivot that I made.
Yeah.
So that was probably like the biggest jumping off point for me was to launch a marketing agency to do because I already had experience giving sales presentations. Like I understood what needed to happen. Like that's my sales engineer and all of me teaching myself how to do that back in corporate. I'm like, okay, well, I know how to do this. And so I did. And that was the launch of my agency back in 2014, 2015, somewhere around there.
So I'm 10 years behind. Like I had that realization again recently. And dude, it's so weird how these worlds collide. Like Expert Secrets is, I've never said this, but like that's what I'm doing. I rooted down to like what am I doing? I've focused on all these brands and building these brands the last 6 years. And that does make me happy. I want to go back to doing that. And I don't love being in the spotlight. But I was like, what way would I love being in the spotlight? And the only thing that came to mind was Russell's advice in Expert Secrets, which is Dream 100, interview the people that you admire and respect. And then that was like the thing for him. It's not everyone's path, but that really resonated to me at the time. And dude, to say it like the fact that you had something to do with that approach has been fulfilling for me so far. So I keep telling people on the team, like, I'm only committing to doing like 100 of these because at the end of my life, that would be my definition of success is
Mm-hmm.
guru'd enough to where I got to talk and learn from the 100 people that are most influential in my life and career. So thank you for doing that and being a part of it twice now. That's cool.
Yeah,
Thank you
it's
for making
it's
this all possible.
it's quite a journey, man. It's quite a
Yeah.
journey. The industry that we live in is a weird one. Nobody really gets it. Nobody really understands
Oh,
this industry. It's funny. I have an office here, and I live in a very very small village in upstate New York. And so, in this office building, it's an old converted schoolhouse. Like the mayor is down on the first floor. We have like the treasurer, like so, like the village. The village board members are working right below me. And so we've got a handful of people that have office space here. And I had one of my neighbors approach me today. He's like, "Hey, I hear you do social media." I'm like, "I don't do social media. Like, I don't, I
I
do not
actually
do."
insulted.
No, it's not. I mean, they don't get it. Like, so I laugh because I'm like, just want to be clear, like,
Don't get
that
it.
I'm like the antithesis of social media. I said it respectfully, and I'm like, I'm not offended, but like, I've had a lot of people say like, "Oh, you work online, right? Do you do websites?" I'm like, "No, No, no, I do not do websites.
Okay. Does your family get it now, or
No,
yeah, either
no,
does
no. It's
mine.
like I published, my book High Ticket Courses, which was like one of my first like I had it professionally edited, professionally
Book
written.
guys,
I
by
wanted
the way.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I wanted to explain, I wanted to be able to hand something to people like this is really what I do. And
Hmm.
so if they read it, they have a little bit of a better understanding, but like people don't understand that like there's coaching and there are people who make their living selling courses and doing
Yes.
coaching, and it's
Are.
still very foreign to a lot of people because so many people don't invest in themselves. So
Yeah.
many people don't buy, courses. Like they go to school and they think that like that's it.
Yeah.
Like okay, they might go back to school or do some, certifications or whatever, but you and I are course junkies. Like we buy stuff all the
For
time.
sure.
All the
Um,
time. It's like,
Yeah, it's like it's actually a problem when people cite too many. Like I'm gonna not maybe ask you this question because yesterday I have someone else, a copywriter. I'm like, what are some of your favorite basically swipes of like what writers inspired you? I'm like, oh, I haven't heard that one. It was olive oil letters were mentioned, and I was like, oh, I feel like I shouldn't have read those.
yeah,
Like any self-respecting copywriter would have read that. But yeah, that's like me at my worst is I'm just like creating a library of Alexandria in my head or something.
yeah.
But dude, I forget actually where I was going with that. I had a really, I was wanting to ask you a question. What were we just talking about right before you said that?
Yeah, we were talking about just how a lot of people in our inner circle, like our
That's
family and
yes,
friends, don't,
family.
yeah,
They
they don't know
might
what we do.
my dad's side, my grandpa is an engineer, so I wonder. I'm gonna send this maybe to him because he'll appreciate this, and I think like just the conversation from that standpoint, certain explanations, like my grandma, on my mom's side, she actually clarified my marketing message because I was like, hey, we're a startup studio that builds brands from scratch, like something not clear to most general people. And she was like, so what does he do? And she eventually got to he helps people teach. And I was like, wow, grandma, that was really good. Like I wouldn't have thought to distill it down that far. So
Yeah,
that's usually what I say when it's like the general public. Because I'm like, I just help people teach, or I say I'm an accountant, which I am. I went to school for that. So
yeah.
ends the
Well, and
conversation.
imagine like when I was only doing webinars, like I would
Hmm.
tell people like, oh, I run the webinar agency, and their mind goes in a totally different
Yes.
direction than what I
Yeah.
actually do. So it took a lot of refining, and I just basically tell people like I just work with consultants and help them sell their crap online.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I'm very aware of like anyone watches the irony or the irony of me helping other people with it, but not being able to help myself. So
Yep,
to me, I'm
yep,
just like, yeah, whatever. I'll
yep.
figure it out later.
Yeah.
But yeah, truly, dude, I'm going through it right now, and the journey of going from like let's call it behind the scenes guy to behind the scenes and camera like is tough. And having like a team behind me, even though you can't see them too, just a few good people supporting me in this project was key. What was it for you? If you had any hiccups during that transition or advice for me, what would you say?
Well, yeah, there's tons of hiccups of like, everyone's going to go through their challenges. I think that
Prefer to avoid some of them, and hit the ones, hit the inevitable ones faster, I suppose. Yeah.
for me, once I built a brand as being one of the webinar guys or the webinar guy, whoever I'm talking to, right? I built a
Hmm.
pretty solid reputation. Russell's referring clients to me. I'm getting a list marketers. I've worked with
Yeah.
tons of them. So I built this persona that I never really wanted. Meaning, when I launched the webinar agency, it was just a cash flow system for me. It's like, okay, cool. Like I know I can make money with this. Like I needed to just stack cash at that point. I didn't have any aspirations of being the webinar guy. I know Fladlin, like that's him. Like he wants to be like he's still going all in on that, and that's
He's having a
amazing.
heck of a run this year. Like I love watching it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so like I was never that was never what I wanted to do. But
Mhm.
the 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 struggle that I was running into was, you know, I did webinars, then I pioneered the mini webinar, which I also didn't really want to pioneer that, but it was just like the next evolution of like what I was trying to break free from being a webinar guy, the webinar guy.
New
But
model.
even to this day, people still come to me like, "Hey, I want to do a webinar." I'm like, "Man, I would work with a couple just like you guys. I would pick like 2 to 3 high level people that I might work on a webinar with per year, and that's max. Sometimes it's not even any. right?
I
Others,
know.
it's like one or two. I'm like, I didn't want to be like, I had a really hard time separating from that and just publicly acknowledging, like, I'm not the webinar guy anymore. Like, that was old
Got to
me.
shed the identity.
And
Yeah.
like, that was really hard because there's the internal fear of this is what my entire brand's built on.
Yeah.
And how do I get to that next level without cannibalizing everything that I've already done? And I'll be honest with you, it took like 6 years. So I wanted to pivot away
Cool.
from being the webinar guy in 2016, but I mentally I couldn't. I had a really
Kind of
hard time
makes it
doing it
better.
because like leads were coming in, like
Yeah.
I just had so many referrals coming in. So I'm like, oh, I'll just do this one more, this one more. I launched a podcast called Sold with Webinars. Like I had created it,
Yeah. You
and
were really linked to your branded keywords.
right, right. And so
Um,
I had really created that niche and I had a really hard time getting away from that. So a mini webinar was, it's really a video sales letter, but the only reason why I called it a mini webinar was because like it was associated with my brand. And it's not a webinar at all. And so I didn't even intentionally try to create this funny story. Like I didn't intentionally design the word mini webinar just because I wanted to latch onto webinars. It was more so I was talking to a
huh.
client and, you know, what we were doing was we were doing long form webinars, getting people to, book a call. And I'm like, dude,
Mhm.
your offer is so great. We need to put this at the front and just shorten it. Right. And Hormozi was actually my first client, which my first,
That's
my
cool.
first,
Really cool.
the first client that I did this with, because Russell referred him to me. We're both in, the inner circle
Gym
and
launch.
Russell's coaching program.
Yeah.
And, he's like, hey, Russell said to talk to you. You're the webinar guy. Here's what I've got. And he was launching Gym Launch. And I'll never
Yep.
forget this. He's like, Russell said I got to do a webinar. I'm like, and I told him right away. Like I had done a mini webinar for my own brand. It was working really, really well. Cut my acquisition cost by 90%. I said, listen, you're targeting gym owners. I really don't think they're going to sit through an hour long webinar and book a call. He's like, well, I know, but I paid Russell. I'm going to pay you. So I just want to do a webinar. And if it doesn't work, no big deal. And that's one thing
Ah.
Alex is fantastic about. Like he will detach and he will pivot very, very
Yeah.
quickly. So I'm like, all right, we'll do a webinar and let's see what the data is. And so we did it. Data wasn't good. And he's like, all right, what next? And I'm like, let's do this,
I
you know,
love that.
mini
Yep.
webinar, which is just basically your pitch. We'll use this funnel. And it just it just took off. Like it was an instant success. He's obviously very, very good at sales. So he's doing these sales calls. He's closing.
Dude,
Don't
he's so
don't
so
quote me on any of these numbers, but like he was getting applications for like between 10 and 15 bucks. So we had a text message going back and forth. He's like, just got another one. Just like, so he was excited because he's getting these leads. He's calling them right away. Right. And
Mhm.
he's closing these people. Like he's doing 5K deals here, 10K. Like he's doing what Alex does. Right. So he
Yes.
just like he just
Monetizing.
yeah,
Yep.
so he took off. And so that's when I went all in on mini webinars, but like the word mini webinar was not by design. It's not like I had this grand master plan of like,
It was
oh,
it was a plan B shift, or was it a refinement or iteration?
no, it was like I was having a conversation with someone
Yeah.
and I was trying to explain to them what I was doing. And I'm like, oh, it's like just a reverse webinar, but like it's just a mini webinar. And I just
Short and
kind of said it like that and like, oh, I get it. I'm like, all right, well, that's what it's gonna be, but I had internal shifts. Like I didn't want to like publicly advertise mini webinar because like there's no scheduling. Like it's not an actual webinar, but I'm like,
Yeah,
whatever.
it's
The
people would
market loved it, so
it's
I'm just gonna roll with it.
yeah. Dude, that's
So
so funny. I struggle with this same sort of thing, just a different version of that. But I wanted to check because, dude, have you read Money Models yet? Shout out to
no.
Russell. You might be the one. I was trying to figure out if it was you or Russell that is named as, in either way, speaking of identity, I was like, oh, Hormozi, you had to do it to him. He was like, I paid someone a lot of money. I had it marked in a famous internet marketer I paid that blah 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 to. And I was like, oh, that's it's I'm sure he didn't mean to it, but I was like, if that's Russell or Joel, I was like, there's so much more than
Yeah.
just being a marketer. So yeah, it's an identity shift, like for me too. And there's certain labels that like just mean respect to some people and then others not. But I get the branding thing is I've had to shed that a few times myself, but I've never boxed myself in as well as you did, which is good and strategic. And that's why probably Russell thought of like, hey, it's the you if you want to make a lot of money, usually you want to be known as like he's the
Well,
guy for X.
yeah, so just to clarify something, me boxing myself in, I really do believe that was my biggest mistake. Meaning,
Really?
yeah, so it took me Nick, it took me probably 6 years to fully detach. And it really wasn't until about 2 years ago when I would start to publicly talk about like, I'm not doing webinar. Like, don't come to me for webinars because
Mhm.
I'm not gonna take it. Right. I'm not gonna take the project. So because
What
I teach
do you do
all
now?
sorts of different marketing.
You refer it down to someone else now these
Yeah,
days?
I'll refer them out to people, and so
Okay.
I latched onto it for way too long, and that holds you back. Like if you want to go do something else, you do have to disassociate. You don't have to cannibalize your brand, but you need to make it public. Like this is the direction that I'm heading. This is who
Mm,
I am. This is what I do, and this is the direction that I'm heading. And as you get more successful, every time you reinvent yourself, it becomes more and more and more difficult. Some people are very good at doing it, and that wasn't me. It's still challenging for me. It's still
yeah.
challenging for me. This idea that we talked about this before, my digital product partner model. I have wanted to do this. I have wanted to teach this for probably 5 years, and I just haven't because I'm changing my market. And so it's a brand repositioning, it's a reinvention. And I just kept telling myself, oh, my current audience, they're product owners, they're experts. I don't want to just totally abandon them. But it's
Yeah.
it's
I,
hard. It's really,
hard.
really hard. Some people are excellent at doing that, and those are the people that you see consistently level up and they change their messaging and they just keep going. They keep going. Like it takes a lot of resilience to do that because you're not starting from scratch because you do have brand equity built in. But you know, most of the customers and clients that I work with right now on the DPP side, they're they're totally cold. Some of them have been carryover, but it's a totally new audience that I'm working with, and it's hard. It is a challenge to separate.
Dude, yeah. And that resonates so much. So glad this conversation's happening because I feel subconsciously guilty, and I'm sure it's just all in my head because I've done it for so long. Like I'll apologize to Pace and just assure him, hey, I'm even with our podcast studio, I started doing my own like here on this wall that'll eventually
Hmm.
be done because I never want to be in a situation where he needs it and I'm in there. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, look at me, like you got obviously way more impact and leverage and blah blah blah. So I don't want to be a distraction. And it took me a while to figure out what is my master plan because it might appear like I'm not focused on the right things like in the moment. And that's probably true. I'm sacrificing maybe some current gains if like maximizing profit this month for maximizing profit in 3 to 6 months is kind of my plan right with this because I do think it will be in benefit. But even like, yeah, it would be like just even pay seeing this or even like Russell, who we work with on just the prime mover offer, like seeing this I gave him flowers in this episode, but in general, it's like it's never good optics when it's like, hey, we're supposed to be working on your brand, but you're podcasting, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so yeah, like again, someone's probably watching this and be like, it's yeah, like I wouldn't struggle with that. So everyone struggles with something different. And thankfully I got Sam Ovens in my life at some point who like helped me destroy his own character. So I got really good at doing it for others and myself of just like, and maybe after this, if you have you seen the alchemy of self journal before that I did with Sam, that
No.
might that might help you. It's just like it's an insane level of character planning, and I forget who we learned it from, but Psycho Cybernetics is the book inspo that both of us like cite for doing that exercise and taking it way
Hmm.
too far. We designed his shoe color, what he would wear, his weight, his body weight, his hair, who would like get it cut by. It was just like it was sociopathic level of that I've never had anyone do except for him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it's creating your future self and but making
Yes.
it as tangible as possible.
Yes. Yeah. Right. You get it. That's
Yep.
exactly what it is. It's aspirational future pace, right?
Hmm.
Uh-huh. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel hurt on that because but the people it clicks for, which is some people like would get to that that I would show it to and they'd be like, this is the most insane. You work for this man? I'm like, yeah, isn't this is pretty nuts, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. So anyways, let's transition because I could talk to you about this stuff all day. We said at the forefront of the convo, you got the new AI tool. That's originally why I reached out. I saw it. My VP of marketing said he got into a 30-day trial. He's a big fan of yours. Um I think saw maybe a presentation at WebinarCon. Did you present at WebinarCon last year, or the year before?
I did. 2 years ago, I presented, but the software wasn't in existence at that
Yeah,
point.
that's right. It was in existence because he told me about the trial. So we're on the trial, and you guys should all get into the trial. But why, like, if you had to convince me and to rebill essentially or hit at the end of the day trial, what would you encourage me to do, like in the next X amount of days while we still have it, that we could see the value and make like in like a defense, not a defensible case, just like it's a no-brainer for
Yeah.
us to.
Well, you talked about it earlier. One of the biggest thing, your greatest skill set that you told me that you had was being able to reverse engineer things like down to a T. And as marketers, we all learn from studying what worked in the past. Like that's the art of marketing. Building upon what has been proven, modeling what works and adapting it for yourself. That was the whole reason why we created Inspired, right? Is to build inspiration. So the first part of Inspired is a swipe file, like an organized, curated swipe file that doesn't live on your desktop and all these screenshots that you compile. It's housed in a central repository in our web app interface, and it integrates with a Chrome extension. So if you see an ad out there, like, wow, that's a really, really good ad, in one click it saves to your
All right,
file. You can
that's the indexing central repository instantly with no latency is the problem I'm trying to solve for sure.
Exactly. And so that's the first iteration of it, right? So you can save ads, but we are designing it for marketers. We're designing it for agency owners, people who do this for a living, the practitioner, right? They're constantly creating copy. They're launching new ads. They're building funnels. And so we wanted to be able to not only collect the swipe file, but be able to use it because it's one thing to study it. It's another thing to adapt it to your use. And so that's what we're building with Inspired. That's what we've already built. So we can save landing pages in your repository. We can save like individual screenshots. But not only that, it's taking that and adapting it to your products. So Nick, if you're working on a project with a client or a partner and man, we need to get like 10 new ads created instead of going through the entire copywriting process of just like, hey, copywriter, go give me 5 new ad creatives. Like you have a swipe file now of a bunch of different ads that you can test. And at the push of a button, it will rewrite them using that framework. It'll use your stories. It'll use your target demographics, aspirations, the pains. Like it knows everything about your product and who you're trying to serve, and it will recreate an ad using that framework that you saved across however many ads that you saved, and you can spin up
Yes.
new ads at the push of a button. And
Uh, that's exactly what yeah, that perfect. Solved. Like I'm in and I would be like, I'll probably be an affiliate for it too if you have an affiliate program.
I would,
Uh,
yeah, of course we do. Yeah,
all
I'd
right.
be ashamed not to. I'd be a big mistake not to have an
Well,
affiliate program.
there's a lot of people. I think it's definitely a thing within our industry, but I've offered to start them for like certain tools that I really love. I'm like, you guys don't have a referral? Like even like get a gift card or anything? So no worries. I would post this naked just for you anyway, out of respect. But in general, like a tool like that, I'll tell you how bad mine is, but you gotta try not to like make fun of me too much because I'm in Evernote was my first central
Mhm.
repository.
Yep.
Then I think it was the first cloud-based one I used was Adversuite when Simon Harries and Luke, I think, launched that offer. And that has a certain era of my like best ads and other people's best ads. So it goes like Evernote, Adversuite, used Foreplay for a little bit if you're familiar with these like
Hmm.
tools and competitors, and um, none of them quite solved the unified swipe file problem. Either did swipe.co. Swipe.co like had some good momentum as a like open source, let's call it, version of it.
Hmm.
But yeah, like solving that problem. I don't know if your like TAM is any more than 10 billion people, right? But that's a super cool problem, and I think one that especially copywriters have always wanted solved. I've just seen so many disorganized swipe files, myself included.
Yeah, that was why we built it. It's phase one was getting the swipe file in there. Phase two was using AI to spin up new versions for yourself. And so we have the ability to. So if you use the Chrome extension and you save an ad, it will automatically detect if there's a destination associated with it. So not only does it save the ad, it goes to the landing page and instantly saves the entire landing page in your account at the push of a button. So now what we're trying to do is take it to the next stage of like, okay, cool. How do we get, landing page copy written from these full page screenshots that we're saving? And so that's from a high level standpoint of like where we're at right now and like where we're going. The next
Ooh,
phase of really where I want to build this feature out is now integrating directly with Facebook.
that's
So
cool.
integrating directly with Facebook ads. So at the push of a button, it will upload it to Ads Manager. It's like, okay, cool. We've got images, we've got copy. Like we can just start to,
You can
rock and
launch.
roll. And like we don't want to be a full blown Ads Manager, but it's like, cool. Launch this into my campaign. Launch
Yes.
this and launch this test. Right. There's a lot of other great softwares out there that are full blown like ads management
Yep.
platforms and whatnot. It's like that's not where we're going. Like we want to help get you guys live and testing quickly to find your new controls.
Yeah,
It
you're
also
you're doing what I actually want, unified across all the tool sets and like with some native integrations and the ability to, if their integration doesn't exist, kind of like suck it in some sort of way format.
Mhm.
That would be like enough for me to in order to do
YouTube
anything.
ads, that's another one. So we can save and compile YouTube ads. And at the
Okay.
push of a button, we've already got the transcript. Now you've got a new script for your own YouTube ads. All you got to do is push record
Sure.
and get it live.
Is
So
is there a
that's
team version right now, or is it all individual plans for the moment?
what was the question?
There a team like unified version? Because for us, I mean, this probably isn't your ideal customer, so no, if you haven't done a team, but like swiping into a central inbox
All right,
and
teams are available. Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
amazing, amazing.
You
So
already
that,
got it. So it's
yeah,
built
because
into
I
the
was like, I'm gonna love this, but will the rest of the team be able to like understand and use it? That's been my biggest thing is like I'm good at the transposition, good at the swiping, not so good at teaching the team how to transpose the swipe.
yeah.
That historically been really hard for me,
Well,
even
it's
breaking into the models. Yeah.
I would love to hear your input on this too. I mean, AI is obviously disrupting everything. And where I'm trying to teach people inside of my realm is like you should really become an AI supermarketer, right? And a supermarketer is someone who is good enough at all of the core things to get customer acquisition, make it profitable, and grow it through a number of different channels. And so advertising is not difficult, right? Because copywriting is replaced by AI, especially with Inspired. You have good frameworks. Boom, with the push of a button, you've got something to start with that's really, really good. You make a couple small tweaks, you're good to go, right? And so that is, AI is truly disrupting everything, and I really believe it's going to combine so many different disciplines all into one. So these people who only used to charge $3,000 a month for ads management, like they're going to go away. They're probably
Yep.
already gone, and these super marketers will now have the ability. It's like, hey, I can run ads, I can write copy, I can build high compelling, high converting sales pages. I know how to write emails with AI, and as long as I know the direction that I need to go, like all of that stuff now allows, you know, even a C-level marketer, you can really do a lot of damage because there's still so many people out there that are never going to learn how to launch their own digital product, that are
Yeah.
never going to learn how to build a business online. And these super marketers, if you understand just the basics of how to get live and you use AI to support you, like you are going to be infinitely more valuable to those people who want to get online but just don't want to learn the basic tech skills of making it happen. You can easily own 50% of their business. Easily. Probably up to 80% if you know how to do all this stuff. And so that was the whole premise of what I call the digital product partner is you
Sick.
understand how to create this stuff and get them live and you will reap an unlimited upside.
Cool. No, it's good. Like I feel like we're not disagreeing enough on a few things. I'm used to having a different take here, but
Yeah.
I'm on your side as far as AI, and we can all make predictions about what's going to happen. But there is a few things that I'm sure of is that in an era that everyone gravitates towards efficiency, I can just think like if I had to flip a coin and guess, like, will humans gravitate towards using AI for pure efficiency and won't be able to stop because it's exhilarating and it's just like you go so fast.
Yep.
It used to be my advantage in this era, let's call it from 2016 till now, of just like rapid iteration. So when I saw AI before and I was like first mover, as you probably were too, it's like, whoa, this accelerates my skill set and I'm first mover. I gave a presentation of like how me and Pace wins by what I call creative velocity. So do I. And I'm like, guys, like this is crazy. Now we're really outpacing everyone who's lagging behind. But in a world where that gap is going to close, and it will, like pretty soon, if not already, where as soon as agents get as good at iterating as we do and can chain across tools, that advantage becomes to me the same thing as being like a low cost leader. Like everyone's
Hmm.
trying to compete to the bottom. The bottom of like iteration usually is recursive for me. Like it starts just like plateaus and then kind of falls off, and everyone starts making the same ads. And I'm hoping that that happens, and it'll be really funny to like all of us who can kind of see the signs of just like everything looks exactly the same, and no one can pull themselves out of this like loop that they've got themselves
Yep.
caught in, so to speak, and the skill erosion that would happen with it. So then all of a sudden they'd be looking at whatever's going to occur, whatever kind of strategic gap maybe opens up of just like, whoa, but Joel's over there using like VO10, it looks like, and that's not even out yet. So like what did he learn?
Yep.
So to me, that's my prediction. Could be wrong, but I think me and Joel are right if you're watching them. Uh, so where I was going with that though is for marketing teams, I'm curious to show you something and see if it triggers anything, because this is how I have found best effective to teach my teams is like, let's just say I'm coming in, they're like, hey, like, do you have anything for, and I'm like, yes, usually. They're like, already, like, what do you need? Like an abandoned sequence, like survey, lead magnet, closeout, anything. So, and I have it saved here as just like a templated version, right, of my best performer. And if there's some stuff that I didn't write, like Darren Hardy's decline sequence, like converted when I consulted there better than anything I've ever seen. I was like, dang, like I'm going to try to codify that for myself. Um, and so on and so forth. So what I'm really looking for is like a collection of masters usually, and it doesn't have to be my own framework. I just want the best, like whoever can write the best sequence wins. But
Hmm.
again, like this type of stuff is a good base, but then like teaching it or transposing it's different. So then like let's just go up to like Jim Edwards or something. So I defined a use case. So people are like, what VSL framework do I use for? And I'm like, oh, that's not apparent. And I had to think of like, why do I gravitate towards a Jim Edwards VSL framework? And I was like, usually it's a market shift that causes new problem, unaware market that I'm using it with. So then I do framework, which a lot of people do, break it out into component parts, and then like the use case or prompt. But then I had the problem of people had no idea why they were using these use cases and prompts, even though I was helping them go one layer deeper. So then finally I just gave this as an example, I guess. Your idea applied. And really what I think is probably what I'll try next is this order. Is this understand like what their level of competence and understanding just that statement is, be like their idea applied, then give the use case and prompt, and then give maybe another their idea applied output. So like
Hmm.
just teaching it to do them. But I don't know, like it's one of the trickiest problems I think to solve, and it's just it always changes a little bit too, is teaching people copywriting. I never was blessed with the 90 like sales letters a day until like your hands bleed and fall off, like write them by hand era. But I did
Yep.
get like type an email a day from Cody Sperber and a bunch of other people who pushed me really hard. So that like there's something to be said, and I don't think we'll ever be lost about putting pen to paper or fingers to keys.
That was how I started. That
Yep.
was how I started. I didn't even tell that part of the story, but I did put pen to paper. That was how I got introduced to direct response marketing.
Dude, tell me your journey. I love hearing these so much because they
Yeah.
seem crazy to normal people. I'm just doing that.
Yeah. So I'll tell this quick story and then I gotta bounce.
Cool.
I've got
My
another
bad, dude.
meeting I gotta do.
Yep.
But my first entrepreneurship program that I joined, it was do you know Dane Maxwell, Andy Drish, the
I
foundation?
love those guys. Yeah, I
Yep.
moved to Boulder because of Andy.
Did you really? Yeah. So 2013, I joined the foundation, and that was the first lesson. I was super. It's funny, right? It's coming full circle. 2013, my actual first idea, before I even wrote my ebook, was to launch a software company, and so I joined the foundation, and I think it was like 6 grand for 6 months. And month one, they dripped out the first lesson. I'm like, I'm anxious. I'm waiting for it to drop, and I look at the first lesson. And it's all about copywriting, and I'm like, what is this garbage? Like I was
Yeah.
pissed. It's like oh well. I mean, you think you buy a software startup, and the first thing they teach you is you got to learn how to sell it. And
Yeah.
Dane's first one of the lessons was like, here's a swipe file of whatever 200, 300 of the world's best, direct response sales letters. I didn't know what
Yeah,
direct response was, but he's like, print these out, rewrite them by hand, an hour each night, and that's your first lesson. And I'm like, are you
dude.
kidding me? And so I did, I did the work, and I remember going through it. I'm like, wow, this is really powerful. Like I'm starting, like it's, if you want to get to, I've never written copy, and you want to get to like a B level copywriter in like a week, that's what you do. Like you will learn so much so quickly if you rewrite the letters by hand and then you highlight like what is this sentence doing? Like what's the purpose of this sentence? And then you
Mhm.
do it and you do it again. So you do it for every single sentence. You rewrite the entire thing by hand, reread it, highlight it. What is this sentence doing? What's the purpose of this sentence? And you will start to create your own vernacular of everything that's actually happening. Like you can get the copywriting speak of like, oh, this is future pacing, this is whatever. But
Mhm.
don't go into that rabbit hole just yet. Explain to yourself why the sentence is here. Why did they spend so much time putting this in here? Because it's all they had to shrink all that stuff into, a newspaper article or, print media. Every letter, every word had valuable real estate. So, they edited the crap out of that. And so ask yourself, why is this here? Why is this here? And you will literally go from never go from an entry level copywriter to being a B level copywriter in probably a week by just doing that. And that was my first real exposure to
Dude,
direct response marketing.
that's so funny. Like I have Dane Max 7-step process. This is, I don't know if that's exactly what you had learned, but it was, so I have this, the foundation, like sales letter that you might have bought, all that stuff. Basically, you're saying that I could just pull in. That's like not even in Evernote. That's just like in my swipe file on my hard drive somewhere. So like
Yeah,
those uploads would work too, I'm guessing, put it into your software.
for sure. For
Yeah,
sure. I tried to look for that swipe file recently. I thought I saved it to one of my Google Drives, but I couldn't find
yeah,
it.
the foundation era, like I personally love that style of copy. I need to have Andy on. It's a note to self here. So, but I'll leave you with that is I'll do that. I'm gonna go actually before I forget, tell our VP of marketing to give me the login and at least try to get my first one in. And that's I guess where I'll hear it with guys is like Joel's giving you guys a 30-day trial. And if you watch this far and don't do anything with the knowledge, to me, it's just like then you might as well call it an edutainment channel. It is what it is. And if that's why you're watching me, there's funnier and better looking people. So I would say thank Joel for being on.
Yeah.
I don't know how to end these, but you're the best. I hope we get to jam together more often and have a
Well,
great
yeah, likewise. So the link to get the trial is getinspired.app. So you can go check it out. But yeah, this is an awesome call, man. Really appreciate this. Anytime you want to hang out, then let's do it again.
cool. Let's do it, man. Cheers.